anticipation or thing. And that trailer, not only was it huge, epic, and grand in scale, when they show the cityscape and tons of these alien ships over top, blowing the city just to hell, the transformation, the two cars hitting head on, and in the process of the crash, heading up. But somebody else pointed this out to me on my Facebook page. They say, watch all the combat scenes in the trailer. I'm like, okay. He goes, now go back and watch the trailer for Transformers 2 in the combat scenes. Big difference. This is huge to me because it's one of my big pet issues. No shaky camera in the combat scenes in the Transformers 3 trailer. You go back and look at the previous Transformers trailers, and there's just so much bloody, useless, shaky cam that's even in the trailers. In this, no shaky camera in any of the trailer stuff. To me, that was one of the biggest visual drawbacks of Transformers 2.
Do you know what's blowing my mind? The level of detail you have at the ready about Transformers.
Oh. Baby, I can go all day.
And scene. How many times did you see the first Transformers in theater?
In theater?
Yeah.
Maybe a dozen.
I mean, this was back in the Now Live days. But
Shut the front door!
Yeah.
He was really psyched. I mean, for like a year leading up to the first Transformers.
You saw it a dozen times?
At
You
least.
went 12 times to the movie theater, and you handed Michael Bay your $12 12 different times. You need
You needed money to make the sequel.
But you got to make a sequel. Put this in context, though. Put this in context. I have been podcasting. I bring this up a lot, but I'll bring it up again. I'm the first person to ever do movie podcasting. And in the very first episode of the very first movie podcast, the very first topic was there's a Transformers movie coming. And I obsessed about this Transformers movie for years. And then, not to go down a huge rabbit trail, basically 2 years, about 6 months away, a year away from when Transformers is going to come out, I put up a picture that somebody sent to me, just of some actors standing around backstage. Paramount Studios had my website shut down because of that picture. I wrote a real angry letter about it that got to the #1 spot on Dig, this angry letter I wrote about how you just screwed, I was going to give you a year's worth of free publicity. I was the biggest fan of Transformers, the biggest, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, Paramount flies me out to Los Angeles for my first trip to Los Angeles ever in my life. They bring me to the set. I meet Megan Fox. I meet Shia LaBeouf. They bring me out there.
Now it all makes sense.
But no, I was a fanatic about Transformers before that. I was talking about Transformers incessantly, which just add to my broken heart when the sheer level of shitness that Transformers 2 was. That movie is horrendous on just indescribable levels, especially when you consider how awesome the first one was.
Okay,
in my opinion.
Stop right there. That's what okay, really, John, though? I mean, I feel like to say, like, the worst sequel of all time, it had to be set up with a masterpiece. Like, okay, Godfather 3, for example.
That got nominated for Best Picture?
Horrible. Can I please do my Sophia Co? Horrible sequel to a brilliant film. But this is Transformers we are talking about.
I know. I mean, it's not the worst sequel of all time. It might be the second or third. Worst sequel of all time is Highlander 2. But
they're redoing it.
But no, I mean Transformers 2, it's as somebody who I was the biggest cheerleader for Transformers Online. I love the Transformers, and I love the first movie passionately. I still do. I acknowledge all of its weaknesses. But at its core, I'm a grown man. I had tears coming out of my eyes the first time Optimus Prime drives out of the mist from that alley and transforms for the first time on screen. I wept.
I'm going to say
it was my Apostle Paul on the road to Damascus moment. I was like, I heard angels singing. It was the most awesome thing.
The second half of that statement, the second half of that statement negated the first. Just saying.
And no, I think Transformers is probably the most fun summer movie I've ever seen.
If you look at the banks, didn't it make $14 billion? So, I mean, it
something like that. Something like that.
People do like it.
And there were several very bad things about it that needed correcting. But anyway, I've taken us off on this horrible. But I think it's general consensus. Everybody liked the Captain America trailer.
I think the reason why I say it won was because it flipped people's perceptions of what the movie was going to be about or the quality of the movie. It wasn't my favorite one, but it was just the one that reversed public opinion.
See, I don't disagree with you on that, but I think for the same reason, I would personally think that about the Transformers one because it's taken a lot of people from this movie is going to be the Transformers series is going to be one of the worst films ever made to. That's a huge jump. That's a huge jump. But no, I agree with you, though. I think there was a lot, that same sort of thing. But I don't know, were a lot of people really down on Captain America before?
Yeah, a lot of people were really
from the
down
still
on
pictures,
it.
just like the X-Men thing.
Right,
Oh,
yeah.
He looks so stupid. Or
I
this
wasn't that
costume
behind
was
it. The trailer was. I will say this: the trailer for Transformers was extremely well done. Whatever. I mean, to me, it's like a movie about robots in disguise. So it is what it is. You know what I mean? But the trailer was, whoever did it is extremely
I'm just
talented.
surprised it took us that long to find out what really happened on the moon landing.
All right, let's move on to the next topic here. I have said a number of times, although everybody knows that my favorite set of films, my favorite film of all time is Star Wars. My favorite set of films is the original Star Wars trilogy. In the bucket of awesomeness that goes to 10, it's an 11. Star Wars fills up the bucket of awesomeness and then flows out over the rim onto the grass, making flowers grow. That's just how awesome it is. Now, having said that,
He states as empirical fact. Apparently.
having said that, I have also said that, in my opinion, when you consider all of the separate disciplines and arts that go into filmmaking, direction, screenwriting, acting, visual effects, cinematography, all the different disciplines that go into making a film, I think the single greatest achievement in film ever is The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. And I get in debates about that all the time. But hey, I just think when you consider everything that went into that film, it's the single greatest achievement in film history. Just my opinion. I know a lot of people disagree, and people who are smarter than me disagree with me. Having said that, when that trilogy came to an end, everybody started talking about The Hobbit. And it's just been a comedy of errors and hiccups and on-agains and off-agains and lawsuits and just everything else. Unfortunately, we had Guillermo del Toro was on to direct.
By the way, I would see that movie directed by Benicio del Toro. It would be like with stick figures and crack.
Why is that Hobbit snorting cocaine?
It would be the best acid trip ever.
Guillermo moves to New Zealand for like 2 years to work on it. Then he has to leave because everything's dragging its ass. Now Peter Jackson's back on. But it appears, so they say, that the drama is nearing an end. The Hobbit, the first part of The Hobbit, apparently is to start shooting, I think, the 11th of March. I know it's March.
And that is when the tsunami will hit.
New Zealand. Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. There was a work stoppage in New Zealand.
In New Zealand. And then Peter Jackson just had surgery for an ulcer. And I guess, were you telling me that
Tolkien died from the same ulcer that Peter Jackson had.
Yeah, from a perforated ulcer, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I think the studio tried to kill him for marketing's. Just for that.
I would do that
for the
if
marketing. Okay, so after all this, look, there was a huge amount of enthusiasm, huge amount of anticipation. Years ago, are we still as excited for The Hobbit now, Sol?
Yeah.
Oh, that journalism school really paid off. Sol, Roth, what do you think?
That is the excited response they're counting on. Yeah, absolutely. I've loved Peter Jackson since Heavenly Creatures, and I just hope this doesn't kill him.
Right.
Literally, it's not worth that. But I think it's going to be...
start wandering the hills of New Zealand.
Yeah.
Flashbacks to only Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
I think it's going to be great. I think the cast is really great. I'm a fan of... and of course I'm a fan, but his name is escaping me right now.
That guy with the
Bilbo
beard.
Baggins.
Oh, Martin Freeman?
Yeah, Martin Freeman. I liked The Hitchhiker's Guide to a Galaxy. I think he's a funny dude.
Dennis?
Yeah, I think once they throw up that teaser trailer, whenever that comes out, probably end of this year or something like that.
Probably.
People are going to go nuts again. It's one of those things where people, because it's not around, people aren't thinking about it. Well, I mean, besides the hardcore fans. But once that teaser trailer comes out, people are going to go ape shit over it.
I actually haven't read The Hobbit, but does Gollum have a significant role in that? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Not I think the key word there is significant. Not necessarily tons of screen time.
Yeah.
In the book, screen time.
Right.
But yeah, very, very significant role. Here's the thing. I get the feeling from this project, the same feeling I had with the new Indiana Jones film. It's like, man, 8 years ago, I would have been so psyched. And then it dragged its heels for so long that eventually I stopped caring
Because
about
it had to brew up some more awesomeness, Campea. Come on.
It went on for so long that eventually I was like, you know what? I stopped caring about them making announcements that, oh, now Harrison Ford says they could start shooting this, and I just stopped caring. I said, when the movie's done, I'll care, because until they say it's a wrap, I'm going to believe something horrible is going to happen.
You didn't believe that movie was actually getting made while it was getting made.
After 6 years, I finally said, you know what? Screw it. This movie's never going to happen.
Like there were trailers out, like the release date was set, like people had pre-purchased tickets. Campea was like, nope, not happening.
It's not out. This movie's not going to happen.
That's how I feel about any Aronofsky studio film. I will believe the Wolverine when I am sitting in the theater eating popcorn.
and even then,
I question it.
Now, I'm not saying this is like the new Indiana Jones film and that this Hobbit is going to suck. It's just that I've lost most of my enthusiasm for it. And I think you're right, Dennis. I think you're 100% right. I don't think anything is going to get my enthusiasm for this thing back. And don't get me wrong, I'm very glad they're making the film. In the absence of Guillermo del Toro, Peter Jackson's as good as anybody do it, and he did such a great job in the first bunch. All that stuff is true. I'm just saying that it's taken so long and there's been so much drama attached to this thing that I just don't care anymore. And I don't think I'm going to care until, just like what you're saying, until that first teaser trailer comes out. Then I whip it out, I start jerking it over everything, and I become that 14-year-old fanboy.
In the middle of the Starbucks, he gets thrown out.
Oh my God! Look at Gollum!
I'll have a vente.
I've been accused of being oversexed on this thing.
Campea just mind beat off over the Hobbit, ladies and gentlemen. Movie podcast first.
He just jizzed on Bilbo Baggins.
In the face. Okay, so
next topic.
Okay, let's move on to the next topic then. Right now, Jon Favreau, of course, did something that I did not think was possible. He made a very watchable, very entertaining, really fun Iron Man movie. Second one, not so much. I've watched it again recently, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was the first time I saw it. It's still watchable, but Favreau, in general, even if you look at the totality of the two films together as a package, Jon Favreau did a pretty good job bringing Iron Man, somebody who I thought was a useless character, to the screen, made it fairly fun. He's gone now, of course. He will not be directing Iron Man 3. And there is talk right now of Shane Black possibly writing and directing Iron Man 3. Some of you may be saying, who is Shane Black?
Well, according to IMDb, he is the writer of such things as Kiss Kiss Bang Bang,
Well,
and A Long Kiss Goodnight.
Shane Black, and I have been waiting for something to come from this guy, because his first stint in the director's chair was a little film called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with Robert Downey Jr., speaking of Iron Man 3, and Val Kilmer. A film that anybody who has seen this movie treasures it, really, really likes this movie, yet the number of people who have seen it and treasured it is sadly small. It's a wonderful film.
And a more popular Shane Black news, he also wrote the Lethal Weapon series.
Yes, he did, as well as, there's another...
The Long Kiss Goodnight, which was awesome. The Long Kiss Goodnight,
which I really like. The Long Kiss Goodnight.
That's another underrated one.
Very underappreciated film.
Last Action Hero.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Well,
it wasn't Last Action Hero, though.
It was Last Boy Scout.
Yes.
And Last Action
Which is
Hero.
Actually, The Last Boy Scout is one of those Bruce Willis films that I actually really thought was fun, especially when he does a little jig at the end. But anyway, I have been baffled as to why a guy in his first stint as a director can make something as artistically wonderful. It's funny, it's endearing, great likable characters, a fairly nice plot, good story structure, the whole bit. He knocked it out of the park. And he hasn't directed anything since. I think a guy like Shane, I'll start this one off. I think a guy like Shane Black, with his sensibilities of humor mixed with real rich characters, I think, we've already seen that he can work well with Robert Downey Jr. I would love to see this happen. And I've never had anybody else in mind. Dennis, what do you think of Shane Black? And have you had anybody else in mind for Iron Man 3 up until this point?
No, I haven't really thought about it, but I think Shane Black's a good choice, especially on the writing aspect because of what he's written before with the humor and the action. As far as directing, he did a great job with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. My only concern, though, is the long pause or the long wait between the movies. Because, directing is something you kind of need to do regularly to get, not only your confidence, but just to get things moving, and to hop into something this big.
And it is big.
Big.
Yeah, it's huge.
From something so small, I'm not sure if that, he could do it.
Very interesting. I guess the same sort of thing could be said for Matthew Vaughn.